On July 21, 2025, South Korea faced a disaster of historic proportions, as relentless rain battered the nation for days on end. Torrential rains, far beyond the usual monsoon, overwhelmed rivers and triggered deadly floods and landslides. The sheer volume of water was unlike anything seen in recent memory, turning familiar landscapes into scenes of chaos and destruction. Streets became rivers, hillsides collapsed, and communities were caught off guard. Many residents had little time to react as water surged into homes and businesses, forcing thousands to flee to higher ground. The downpours starting July 16th shattered rainfall records and exposed the nation's vulnerability to extreme weather. In some regions, a month's worth of rain fell in just a few days, overwhelming drainage systems and infrastructure. Emergency services were stretched thin, racing to rescue those trapped or injured. Firefighters, police, and volunteers worked around the clock, braving dangerous conditions to save lives and provide aid. The government raised the disaster alert to its highest level, mobilizing all resources. Military units joined the effort, delivering supplies and helping with evacuations in the hardest-hit areas. Scenes of cars swept away and homes destroyed were broadcast worldwide, a stark reminder of nature's power. The devastation left many families homeless and entire neighborhoods unrecognizable. For South Koreans, this was a nightmare that underscored the urgent need to adapt to a changing climate. As the nation began to recover, calls for stronger climate action and better disaster preparedness grew louder than ever before. Some regions suffered especially severe devastation, with entire communities facing the overwhelming force of nature. The scale of destruction was unlike anything residents had seen in decades, leaving many in shock and disbelief. Sancheong County, known for its tranquility and scenic beauty, was hit hardest. Nearly 800 millimeters of relentless rain triggered catastrophic landslides that tore through mountainsides and swept away everything in their path. Gapyeong, a popular resort town famous for its riverside retreats, was inundated by 170 millimeters of rain in just a few hours, causing a massive landslide that engulfed homes, guest houses, and left entire neighborhoods submerged. Floodwaters swept away vehicles, tore through streets, and left a trail of destruction in their wake, making roads impassable and isolating communities. Neighboring counties like Hapcheon and Haedong also recorded extreme rainfall, with swollen rivers threatening to breach their banks and farmlands submerged, compounding the crisis for local residents and farmers. In Gwangju, frantic searches continued for missing residents, as emergency workers combed through debris and mud, hoping to find survivors amid the chaos. Tragedy struck families. A woman in her 70s died in Gapyeong, and many others were left grieving, their lives forever changed by the disaster. In Sancheong, rescue teams worked tirelessly, searching through mud and debris, and sadly found more victims as the days went on. These stories reveal the human cost behind the statistics, reminding us that behind every number is a family, a home, and a community struggling to recover and rebuild. By July 21st, the death toll had reached at least 14, with 12 more missing. Rescue teams searched through mud and debris, hoping for survivors. Thousands were forced to evacuate. Nearly 13,000 people fled their homes across 14 cities and provinces. Families escaped with only essentials, facing an uncertain future in emergency shelters. Many recounted waking to the roar of water or landslides, fleeing with nothing but the clothes on their backs. For these evacuees, the struggle has shifted from survival to the daunting task of rebuilding. Each number in the tally represents a life forever changed. The floods crippled infrastructure and the economy. Nearly 2,000 public facilities were damaged, roads washed away, bridges destroyed, and entire towns cut off. Over 2,200 homes, businesses, and farms were ruined, leaving families and livelihoods in ruins. Agriculture suffered immensely. Submerged fields, lost crops, and drowned livestock threatened food supplies. The cleanup is monumental, with tons of mud and debris to clear. Rebuilding will require massive investment and long-term support for affected families. The scars, physical, financial, and emotional, will last for years. This disaster has left a deep mark on both the land and its people. The devastating floods of July 2025 are not an isolated incident. They are part of a troubling global trend. Around the world, climate change is fueling more frequent, intense storms, and the consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. Scientists warn that as global temperatures rise, the atmosphere holds more moisture, leading to heavier downpours and more destructive weather events. South Korea's record-breaking rainfall this year is a stark and sobering example of how a warming atmosphere can dramatically alter our environment, turning city streets into rivers in a matter of hours. Similar disasters struck in 2022, but this event was even more severe, signaling a new normal for the region. Each year, the scale and impact of these floods seem to grow, leaving communities with less time to recover. The crisis is forcing a fundamental rethinking of how we design our cities, build our infrastructure, and prepare for disasters. Urban planners and engineers are now faced with the urgent task of adapting to a rapidly changing climate. These floods are a wake-up call for the world. We must invest in resilient infrastructure, improve early warning systems, and protect natural buffers like wetlands and riverbanks to reduce future risks. Ignoring these warnings is no longer an option. The cost, both human and economic, is simply too high. Communities are being uprooted, livelihoods destroyed, and lives lost. Understanding and acting on these lessons is vital for a safer, more resilient future. Only by working together and taking decisive action can we hope to protect our cities and communities from the growing threat of climate change.